Здравствуйте, друзья! С вами Билли Бонс, и мы продолжаем путь к освобождению Финиаса. Вот такой наш любимый профессор. Он слегка чокнутый, конечно, но это ж наш профессор. Ого, таран. И что мы с ним можем сделать? О, у нас впервые не хватает очков, чтобы вскрыть. Оба! Ай. Ай-яй-яй-яй-яй. Так, тут надо что-то поинтересней. Продолжить. Давайте взглянем. Вот он, таран. Видимо, нам нужно выходить внутрь. Давайте пробовать. Ай-яй-яй. Минус боевой дрон. Ай. Не сработала тактика. Нам нужно что-то с бешеным уроном. Давайте подумаем. У нас вот такая штука есть. Давайте попробуем ее. А что он делает? Опля. Такого я еще не видел. Где он? Ага. Давай на нас отвлекайся. Давай, 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 давай. Ой. Вот мы застряли. Вот это мы застряли, ребят. Что ж делать? Вот это вообще непонятно. Живое существо может уменьшить. Ай. Где ты? Да что ж такое-то? Умная зараза железка. Да елки-палки. Давай, убейся об что-нибудь. Где ты? Блин, и поднять я их не могу. Ну, почти половину мы с него сняли. Ребята, я просто в шоке. М. $700 снимает. Так, бежим опять ныкаться. Ай. Это нехорошо, нехорошо. Их слишком много. Блин. Блин, с самого начала все делать. Феликс. Так, а чтоб ему... Урон в ближнем бою. Да, порвати. Применить. Теперь давайте посмотрим оружие. У нас есть вот такая штука. Где он? Снаряжение. А где же эта штука? Вот она. Давайте мы ее выдадим Феликсу. Они у нас стреляют пулями, а им бы, конечно, стрелять энергетическим оружием. Потому что на этого хорошо влияет энергетика. Ай! Так, ну идея хорошая. Мы прям его хорошенько так зацепили. Осталось только мне не сдохнуть. Ну и зачем вы в ближний бой к нему поперлись? Ага, вон они, дроны. Пришли. Сколько же раз мы будем проходить его, пока не пройдем? Смотрим Феликс и Парвати. Ага, они с энергетическим оружием. Отлично. Берем сразу вот так. Давайте займемся дронами. Ну, таран почти добит. Ай. Вот. Так, что у нас? Только таран. Остался. Японский бог. Вот это... Фух, друзья. Я не буду говорить, что я сейчас чуть не сделал. Это не для Ютуба. Но было прям очень тяжело. И это еще мягко сказано. Очень тяжело. Я напряг не просто все мышцы, а даже все мозговые мышцы. Что ты мне выдашь? Ключ от гибернационной камеры. О, как. Все, возвращаем нашему Феликсу и Парвати оружие, их любимое. Ручной пулемет модификации 2. Ну, ребят, вот если будете проходить эту игру с напарниками, то в этой комнате только энергетическое оружие. И запаситесь побольше всего. Все, я сохранился, идем дальше. Я так понимаю, чтобы туда попасть, нам нужно... А, вот, в принципе, есть какой-то проход. Вау! Это гибернационная камера? Все? Так быстро?
You don't know how glad I am to see you. You did the right thing. Akande was a monster. Her death was much deserved, and long overdue. And you lunatic, you broke into the board's own fortress just to rescue one doddering old man. You are absolutely out of your mind, and I can't begin to thank you enough. Ah, all in a day's work for you, huh? You've broken the board's stranglehold on this colony, and you saved my life. But there's still so much we have yet to accomplish. You and I are going to have to work harder than ever to save Halcyon. I'm afraid the situation is far worse than any of us ever anticipated. I would like nothing more than to celebrate this victory, but we have a serious problem on our hands. Earth has gone dark. We haven't received a single message in 3 years. There's been no communication, no signals, nothing. 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared on their way back to Earth. We don't know what they discovered when they arrived, or if they arrived at all.
Hold on, Doc. Are you telling me the Earth went dark 3 years ago, and the board's just been covering this up?
They've been incredibly effective at concealing the truth. Right now, the only people in the colony who know are standing in this room.
You mean we're all alone out here? Really alone?
I'm afraid so, Miss Holcomb. Halcyon is the only home we have left. Returning to Earth is no longer an option. We're in serious trouble, my friend. Do you know what this means for Halcyon? We can't rely on Earth for support anymore. We've been cut loose.
Да, это проблема. Земли больше нет.
Yes, you're right. The road is long, and we haven't a moment to waste. We must begin the revival process immediately, starting with the Hope's brightest minds, and then we're going to fix this damn colony, one problem at a time. We're going to need a leader, and I can't imagine a better person for the job than you. What do you say, old friend? Will you help us? You won't hear a word of disagreement from me. When I revived you, I thought we were going to save this colony all by ourselves, but I was wrong. We can't save Halcyon on our own. We're all going to have to pull together, somehow. We are not a colony anymore. Our last connection to Earth has been severed. I don't know if we'll survive, but we're going to have to try our best.
Это что, конец, что ли?
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment he landed in Emerald Vale, his actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists.
Да, ребят, похоже, это конец. Последняя серия.
The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Halcyon. The people of Halcyon were
Достаточно
nothing if not
короткая.
hardy. In the absence of the board's
Если бы...
authority,
Ладно,
many
не
of the
буду
colony's
отвлекать вас,
settlements
смотрите,
banded
а потом
together
я
with
уже
a
свое
single
мнение
purpose in
скажу.
mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation, but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Sanjar's civil liberties and worker-centric policies were slow to catch on with the other corporations. But as Halcyon began its long, arduous journey toward recovery, many of Terra 2's smaller townships started adopting MSI's alternative corporate structure, and eventually became entirely self-sufficient. In the coming years, many of these townships managed to eke by, where otherwise they might have starved. Sublight Salvage adapted to the changes in Halcyon, shifting their business model to suit the times. Their claims of legitimacy were scrutinized, but ultimately unquestioned. Lilia Hagen would continue to protect her family as ruthlessly as ever. After returning to Edgewater, the deserters negotiated workplace reforms with Reed Thompson, including a single day of rest, which came to be known as a weekend. As the world around him changed, Thompson found himself pining for the old days. He was known to spend his weekends in the cantina, nursing one of the few remaining bottles of Zero G, and repeating to himself, "It's not the best choice, it's Spacer's choice." As for Adelaide McDevitt, she tended to her garden in solitude for another year before passing away. Her body was discovered some months later, when Reed Thompson paid her a visit in an effort to make amends. Her remains were buried in a place of honor, underneath the floor of the Edgewater Cannery. Reed believed this was what she always wanted. Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers, schooled in her family's traditions. The future of the groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the lifetime employment program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice in the matter. Nearly everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time indeed. Life in Halcyon was sobering for Felix Millstone. The grand revolution he dreamed of never came. There was no great awakening for the colony, no celebrations in the streets. There was only the hard, desperate work of trying to repair a broken colony. Felix never had a head for numbers, but if there was labor to be done, he was there to help. Eventually, Felix realized that the work of a revolution was done with two hands. Though Parvati eventually grew comfortable aboard the Unreliable, she never quite came out of her shell. She seemed to prefer the company of Ada to the crew, and she could often be found neck-deep in cables and grease, telling Ada funny stories from her childhood. While the colony fell into chaos, she found an island of relative peace with Ada, and they formed an unusual bond. She decided to remain aboard the Unreliable permanently as its chief and sole engineer. As hard as she tried to drink them away, Nyoka's memories eventually overcame her. Traveling with the crew served as a constant reminder of the family she'd lost, and so she eventually returned to Monarch to get back to what she found most comfortable: the deep end of a bottle and the far end of a trail. Few have seen her since, but travelers often swear they hear her and her machine gun in the night, screaming swears and spitting bullets. Before his untimely death, Captain Alex Hawthorne had plans to restore and modify, for combat purposes, a sanitation and maintenance automechanical that he'd found in a state of disrepair in Emerald Vale's scrapyard. That unit remains broken down and forgotten in the unreliable supply closet.
А мы его, кстати, не находили.
Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. Though he was always haunted by the failures of his past, he was determined to make things right by building toward the future. The revival project was hard and painful work, but in the end, despite limited resources, over half the Hope's colonists were successfully revived. Even after Wells passed away, the Hope scientists and engineers worked night and day to pull Halcyon from the brink of collapse. Their efforts continue to this day, which may be reason enough for optimism. Dr. Wells laid the groundwork for the project to save the colony, but he would never live to see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a few years later. His work was carried on by the scientists and engineers he revived. Life will never be the same in Halcyon. It is widely agreed that the colony has a chance of stabilizing within a generation, owing to the hard work and determination of the surviving colonists. Recovery is a distant goal, and the path is long and uncertain. But the people of Halcyon carry on, determined as ever. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? You brought an end to the chaos on Tartarus, and proved yourself the most capable leader left in the colony. You administered the colony in your own image. With the old power of the board destroyed, a new government of Halcyon rose with you at its center. With your steady hand, you guided Halcyon through the turbulent years that were to follow, and helped ensure the survival of the colony until the end of your days. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.
Вот и все, ребят. Я не ожидал, честно, что это будет так быстро. Я думал, может, какие-нибудь дополнительные действия от нас понадобятся. Но нет! Все! Да, мы проходили ее с вами месяц. Но, честно, если бы мы не отвлекались на побочные квесты, мы бы с вами ее прошли за полмесяца. По полчаса. Ну, сколько это? 7,5 часов? Как-то... Как бы вам это сказать? Это слегка разочаровывает. Это не просто слегка разочаровывает, это дико бесит. То есть ты можешь играть, в принципе, в эту игру практически бесконечно. Задания будут генерироваться одно за другим. Ровно до тех пор, пока ты не отправишься на Тартар. Оттуда выхода нет. Только конец игры. Что ж, друзья, давайте попрощаемся с The Outer Worlds. Игра принесла нам очень разные эмоции. Где-то положительные, где-то отрицательные. И все-таки она имеет свое право на существование. На сегодня мы заканчиваем. Впереди нас ждут новые игры. А на сегодня я с вами прощаюсь. Прежде чем попрощаться, забыл. Ставьте лайки. Подписывайтесь на канал. И не забывайте оставлять комментарии. А на сегодня всем пока. Пока.